and then conveniently moved to Florida whenever he was going to be held in contempt of court and had to serve 15 days in jail. Yeah, he killed her, in my opinion. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to True Crime Lounge. We are finishing up with our three-part episode of Jean Sprangler, where we will be talking about Dr. George Hodel, mob connection, and the case. Now, I will go ahead and forewarn you. This one is a bit longer. No intention was needed on that one, I promise. I know your time is valuable, so is my time. So, if you're new here, you get that like button or bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe, help a girl out. Um, And and I guess we shall begin. Let's jump right into it because, like I said, your time is valuable and my time is valuable, and I appreciate your time for tuning in. As we in real life, my short goes, positive vibes only. No negative comments will be allowed. If you hate, you hate. If you hate, get out. Now, with that being said, let's talk about Dr. George Hodel. Now, in his book, Black Dahlia Avenger, Hodel was always put forward a theory that his father had committed the brutal 1947 slaying of Elizabeth Short, as well as the murders of Janine French in 1947, Gladys Kern in 1948, along with several others in Jean Sprangler. Now, her purse, the only piece of evidence in the case, was found approximately a quarter of a mile from Hodel's residence, the Franklin home in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. Now, Hodel also recalls how his half brother Duncan once said, I remember one of Dad's girls was staying back then was a drop dead gorgeous actress by the name of Jean. Now, in his theory that Steve Hodel, father, was Sprangler on the night of the disappearance and believes that she may have been mistaken for and threatening to reveal what she knew or suspected of him. Now, Sprangler was last seen in public at a Hollywood restaurant arguing with a man whose description matches that of Hodel. Now, that was the final sighting of Sprangler during the early mornings on October 8th. And a popular radio DJ at the time, the Sheikh Lazar, who conducted tableside interviews, reported seeing Sprangler at a Sunset Strip restaurant at the restaurant about 2:30, and she appeared to be arguing with two men. When Lazar approached the table and the men who waved at her. Now, similarity, the proprietor of the restaurant, Terry Taylor, also reported seeing Sprangler earlier that evening at a front table with a man who described as a clean cut fellow around 30 or 35. Now, the incident occurred October 7, 1949, and was in just 1 week before Hodel was formally arraigned and felony charges and could see him serve decades in prison. Now, Dr. Hodel's arrest resulted from accusation that he had molested and impregnated his 14-year-old daughter, Tamara Hodel, after which she claimed that she had given the baby a back alley abortion. Now, Steve Hodel said that his father that he was going to perform abortions for the rich and famous and a lot of officers if the girls got in trouble. Now, he believes that the mysterious Dr. Scott was another member of the family's abortion ring that was headed by Dr. Aldrin, and made up physicians who paid up hush money to the police. Now, Hodel contends that the LAPD of the 1940s was a real life LA confidential back then. Now, an LA detectives would search the area where her purse was discovered on October 13th, 1949. And a station attendant by the name of Art Rogers would tell the police on that evening that Sprangler had been seen in a Hollywood restaurant. He saw a man with a woman matching Sprangler's description who came into the gas station that night near the Sunset Strip, and the man who brought gas and Rogers and the couples were headed to Fresno, but they drove off. Now the woman who was who shrank down in the passenger seat cried out. Had the police followed the car, Rogers called out. But by the time they were on the scene, the vehicle and occupants were long gone. Now Hodel believes it was his father that was spotted Sprangler, and he fits the description of a man um, with her, and he drove off into a 1936 black picture sedan resembling the one that Rogers described. Now, the same vehicle also matched the description of the cars leaving the Elizabeth Short scene in 1948. At the time, the LA Examiner printed a map of the headline Black Sedan Hunted in LA as Death Car. Now, in the firm conviction of Steve Hodel, it is the father who was seen with Springwood the night she went missing. According to what he said, it was that his belief that she stated that she started dating Dad either later September or early October. And in the pursuit of the truth about his father, Hodel was given clearance to search the Franklin house in 2012. In an attempt to locate forensics evidence, a trained dog indicated the smell of human remains in the basement, and slowed behind the soils and recovered the identified presence of human remains in the soil. Now, let's talk about a mob connection. Um, During the 1940s, the mobster Mickey Cohen held a type group over criminals in the underworld of Los Angeles. Investigators explored a theory that Springler's disappearance were related to LA gangsters with whom they reported was associated. Now, she was known to have worked for a long time as a dancer at the Florentine Gardens, a nightclub owned by Mark Hansen in the Nils of the Grunland. Incidentally, Hansen was considered a suspect in the murder of Elizabeth Short and was known to have been the last person to have spoken with her in the days leading to her brutal death. Now, it was Springler's acquaintance with Hansen that might have led an association with various mob affiliates, including bootleggers, gambling entrepreneurs, Anthony Cornello Strello, um, Mickey Cohen, a violent gangster who worked on behalf of Al Capone's Chicago outfit, and Bugsy Siegel. It is alleged that Sprangler has been seen with his little Davy Ogle, and he associated that Cohen in Palm Springs, and later Las Vegas, Nevada, and Ogle Frank Nicoli, another Cohen associate. And in September 1949, Nicoli disappeared after having been indicted on conspiracy charges. October 9th, 1949, 2 days after Springler went missing, Ogle would disappear. And this led police to investigate the possibility that Springler and Ogle were also under indictment for conspiracy and that had fled to avoid prosecution. Now, Thomas Ellery Evans was a gangster in the acquaintance of Ogle who was interrogated by police during their investigation. Now, in April 1930, um, Springler's sister Betsy would testify that neither she nor her sister were never agreeing with Ogle. Cohen and his associates in that same year, a customs agents of El Paso reported seeing Ogle and a woman who looked like Springer in a local bar. Now, the hotel clerk identified Springler from a photograph, but neither Ogle nor Springler's name would appear at the hotel register. Now, because her career was tragically cut short, she never reached that level of success she craved in Hollywood. She was a young woman who was an aspiring starlet who sought fame. And the LAPD continued to search and circulated photos for several years. As she is still a missing person, the LAPD is not close has not closed the case until evidence is uncovered that reveals exactly what happens. She remains missing, and the disappearance of her will continue to haunt the city. Now, let's talk about like when the day she came home. Um, when Jane, when Jean failed to come home the following day, a distressed Sophie would call the real-time vision of the LAPD. Found missing persons report, and the police even took details, but knew that the young starlet was prob was probably just out on a fling, and that could probably show up in a day or two. Now, they had not even put her name in the police teletype as a missing person. The following day, an alarmed employee at Griffith Park reported finding her purse near the Ferndale entrance. Now, the investigators would converge on the scene and found one of the biggest manhunt in LAPD history. Okay? Now, Robert Cummings, a star of Pretty Girl, the last film that Jean had been working on, threw some light on. Someone might have been told the police 2 weeks before her disappearance that she was sitting in a dressing room, stepped in Columbia Studios with whom a pretty starlet had been walked by whistling, "You look happy, Cummings," remembered, and she would go, "I am, I have a new romance." Is it serious? No, but I'm having the time of my life. Now, the only clue police had with the identity of her romance was someone named Kirk. Yeah. Now, the plot thickened when one of. Now, we talked about her pregnancy. We talked about Dr. Scott. Now, Let's go on and talk about her legacy, okay? Then, when this episode's over with, I will reveal what I think happened. Honestly, um, because we could, because I think, well, that's the case in general, guys. But yeah, but here's the thing. Do I don't think it was Hodel or the mob in the Black Dahlia connection. I think it was her ex-husband. Um, think about it. He wanted sole custody back. He wanted to keep Jean from her daughter and everything. And 9 times out of 10, who is it always? The husband or the ex-husband or the spouse or the ex-spouse, someone. Yeah, our partner or ex-partner. So that's just my theory of what happened. I think he killed her. He got his new wife up in on it, and they buried her somewhere. So, and then conveniently moved to Florida whenever he was being going to be held in contempt of court and had to serve 15 days in jail. Yeah, he killed her, in my opinion.